Today, the legs of the multitude are swathed in sheerest nylons. Although a byproduct of coal, nylons are an extremely delicate commodity and must be handled with care. As all women and most men know, they snag so easily. For professional nylon handlers, a good manicure is essential. And to ensure that the output of 18,000 pairs weekly leaves the premises in perfect condition, the staff of this factory probably have the smoothest hands in town. Each machine on this floor turns out a fully fashioned stocking every 37 minutes. Each man looks after 18 machines. Now the so far shapeless piece of stuff has that troublesome seam put in. And believe it or not, the seam is always straight when the stockings leave the factory. This operator turns out an average of 420 pairs a day. Having reached this stage in its development, the stocking is checked for flaws and thread ends are snipped off. With a dexterity that betrays familiarity, they're slipped over rows of shapely though inanimate legs to undergo a little pressure cooking or pre-setting to give them the shape that allows them to cling so tenaciously to any leg. After taking shape, the stockings now take color. This is the department that gives scope to the people who invent new names for new shades, like can-can or elephant's breath. This is more than any normal nylon should be subjected to. The welt is tested for strength to simulate suspender drag. This one takes the count at 240 pounds. To supply New Zealand's increasing demand for hosiery, more than 2,000 people are employed in the industry. In this mill, nearly 200 are working on nylons alone. Now the stocking gets its final pressing ready for packaging. Probably no other factory product receives such careful handling. And if the wearers were as careful and used gloves when rolling them on, there'd be fewer laddered nylons lying around for Dad to use as paint or home brew strainers.
Wellington Airport, Saturday, midnight. And copies of the latest Sunday papers are off to the South Island to be on sale at daybreak. This will be just one of a yearly total of 15,000 flights Safe Air Limited make to 31 airports throughout New Zealand. The company started in a small way 17 years ago to carry freight across Cook Strait under contract to the Railways Department. Since then, the Bristol freighter has gained a reputation for efficient short-haul freight carrying. As well as operating the rail air service, the planes now fly National Airways Corporation freight under contract. Today, the fleet of a dozen bulbous-nosed, throbbing Bristols is a common sight. Over the years, the company has built equipment for every conceivable freight requirement. When they commenced a weekly air service to the Chatham Islands for the Internal Affairs Department, they realized people would expect to be treated differently from freight for their 3.5-hour flight. So a capsule was designed and built to slide in where the cargo normally goes. The soundproofed, air-conditioned capsule, which takes up to 20 passengers, can be swallowed by the Bristol minutes after it has unloaded freight. The trusty workhorse is transformed into a comfortable airliner and provides a much-needed service to the Chatham Islanders living 500 miles east of the mainland. Containerization has come to passenger transport.
Back Back to New Zealand today comes Aunt Daisy after her 4th visit to the United States, where she spoke to women's organizations and broadcast over several networks. Radio was on the spot to record the return of their personality, who has been known to listeners for 17 years. When Aunt Daisy got down to work again, she was ready to give Weekly Review some of her reactions to life abroad.
Well, good morning, everybody. Here I am home again, back again in New Zealand, which is the very easiest country in the world to live in and work in at the present time, I can assure you of that. Well, I've a very happy duty to perform to bring to you the kindliest and friendliest greetings from the women in the homes of America, both the United States and Canada, all those thousands. The chief point of agreement, one in which every woman would like to take a part, is that we would like to get the world back to a normal, happy life, to get a real United Nations, to get happy homes, happy home life, family life. We know how delightful it always is having school picnics and school concerts and how that brings all the community together. Well, we want to get back to that again. Of course, I know that what's against it at the present time is the housing shortage, but that won't last forever. That's being coped with at present. There are new ideas, concrete houses and so on, prefabrication going on, and soon that will be overcome. And in America, I do assure you, it's far worse there than it is here, but they're coping with it too. And it really is tough over there. I remember one Saturday evening, a wet Saturday evening in New York, in a crowded milk bar, seeing a little toddler, he wouldn't be 2 years old, sitting up in one of those high stools and his mother feeding him with vegetables and gravy out of a bowl. She'd had to get it there. I suppose she had a room with no cooking conveniences. She was well dressed. She wasn't poor. So there was no family life about that, was there, bringing up a little child that way? So the only thing we can do is to pool together, to study the questions, both sides, try to get a fair solution. New Zealanders like to be fair. That appeals to us. And each one must do her own part. Don't sit back and think that the big 4 and the big 5 and the big 6 can do everything. They will be influenced by what we think and what we do. And remember always that the great flame of victory will come from the spark of individual effort. So kia ora, cheerio, everybody.
This next song will give you the translation first. It's entitled, "The Shades of Night Were Falling Fast," but I got a good look anyway.
With the rush of traffic growing daily in our city streets, pedestrian crossings are more important than ever. Marking crossings is quite a job, but in Auckland, someone on the City Council staff dreamt up this machine for the purpose. A self-propelled road marker. They claim it's unique, and it looks it. Average life of a pedestrian, a crossing, is 7 weeks, so the machine and the driver are kept busy, particularly the driver. He has to drive the machine, work the spray, and keep it up to the mark. Putting the wiggle in indication lines that warn motorists there's a crossing ahead is easy for this machine. Thanks to ingenuity, all crossings are kept clearly marked, a protection for both motorists and pedestrians.
Another flight from Sydney is in at Auckland Airport. Who's on board? Salesmen on expense accounts, grannies on family business, and remember, every granny is someone's mother-in-law, and of course, visitors from abroad. It's one of these visitors who concerns us. Name, Susan Vaughan, age 22, address, Sydney, purpose of visit, to tour the country with a New Zealand friend, Lorraine Clark. It's quite a moment, the moment of leaving a ship, a train, or an aeroplane. If you're expecting a friend to meet you, there's always the fleeting fear they might not turn up. No worries this time, Lorraine is here, and Susan can consider her holiday really begun. Years ago, there wouldn't have been many young ladies who'd hire a horse and buggy and set off to see the world. Today, any amount of young ladies do just that. The buggy is now a car, or even an aeroplane. And that's the reason for all these globe-trotting young women. Travel's so much easier, so much more fun these days. So into the city of Auckland. This is something young Edwardians did do. Like our young ladies, they enjoyed taking tea in the Rose Garden. However, let's forget the past, for we're in Queen Street, an entirely modern thoroughfare. Last-minute shopping for the things a girl needs on tour. And the first of many swims she'll have in New Zealand round out Susan's brief stay in Auckland. After all, the place is a city, and this young Sydney-sider wants to see the wide-open spaces. Lorraine has plotted the course with just this in mind. First by road to Rotorua, Wairaki and Waitomo, a bubbling area of natural porridge pots, miniature volcanoes and long underground walks. Back to Auckland to catch a plane to Wellington, a 400-mile trip in 90 minutes. A one-night stopover in the capital city, then across to Nelson in the South Island. Christchurch is next, stepping off place for tours into the mountains, where you can rough it in the luxury of the Hermitage Hotel. Down to Queenstown with maybe a side trip to Milford Sound. Through Southland to the city of Invercargill, there to take off for Christchurch. From Christchurch, back home. First stop, Rotorua. Anglers, please keep their seats. These aquarium beauties are only for looking at. But in the local rivers can be caught any number of trout just like them. Women, of course, won't take fishing seriously, but they seem to enjoy it just the same. More feminine than angling is sightseeing, with its gentle perambulations past such fancy scenes as the Bridal Veil and the Champagne Pool. The steam from Rotorua's geysers tumbles happily upwards with never a care. But the steam at Wairaki is serious, hard-working steam, busy being turned into electricity. If holidaymakers find all this regulated energy overwhelming, the golf course is next door. All right, so it's trick photography. While winter visitors might not be tempted to sunbathe, no one need ever be cold at Wairaki. The warm mineral water flowing into the hotel pools eases the aching muscles of businessmen, clears the early morning head, and gives strength for the coming day. We'll leave the gentleman happily collapsed in the sunshine and venture underground. Waitomo Caves, last side trip for the girls before they fly south. Under coloured lights, the acres of limestone seem to breathe ice and fire. Topside again and ready to go even higher. Goodbye to Auckland and the thermal regions, and goodbye to the north of the North Island. Wellington's an hour and a half away, and beyond Wellington, the South Island. Meet David Thomas from Auckland. He's one of those incurable shutterbugs who photographs everything in sight, even when flying 20,000 feet above the scenery. Oh, you may laugh, girls, but David won't have to buy postcards to show people where he's been. He'll just spend 5 times the money on films. Not that it'll be wasted. There are many types of natural beauties worth photographing. Below is Mount Ruapehu, the roof of the North Island, and soon the flight will be over. Wellington, and the passengers go their separate ways. Who knows, he may meet his pin-up girl again someday. For Susan and Lorraine, one night to spend in the capital city. Time for a night out, a capital dinner with all the trimmings. And a toast to whatever Nelson and the South Island may bring tomorrow. Nelson is 30 minutes by air from Wellington, and its climate is grand. Visitors are moved to prance about on the beach and eat their lunches outdoors, never heeding the sand in their ice cream. And in Nelson, you meet the nicest people, as if you hadn't guessed. Boy finds girl, boy loses girl, boy finds girl, the classic formula. But what a pleasant place to find her in. The summer days go lazily by. There's plenty of time to get better acquainted, plenty to do, plenty to see. It's a good tobacco picking machine, but it'll never fly. Idyllic days indeed. But even here, they can't last forever. Always there comes the time to move on. No matter, addresses have been exchanged and promises to write, while David hopes to be in Christchurch before Susan leaves the country. Right now, leaving New Zealand is something Susan doesn't want to think about at all. This, we hope, is only a temporary farewell. After all, it's a small country, so that's all it need be. The city of Christchurch is said by some to be a piece of old England shifted holus-bolus to the South Pacific. Its citizens do their best to encourage the myth, but give the game away by getting excited over the same things as every other New Zealander. The people in this crowd all have one idea. They are convinced they have the winner for the next race. And so keen are New Zealanders about horse racing that most of them won't mind much being proved wrong. Win or lose, a day on a Christchurch racecourse is fun. The horses are always in good shape, even if the punters' pockets aren't. Triumphantly, Susan leaves the payout window. Oh, she'll crow when she writes to David about this. It's not a big win, but it'll be enough for a couple of extra days at the Hermitage Hotel. Up into the high country now, making for the mountains, the Southern Alps. In the distance, Mount Cook, New Zealand's highest peak. At the foot of the mountain is an oasis of civilization, the Hermitage. Travellers staying here can frolic up and down the snowy slopes all day, safe in the knowledge that in the evening they'll have all the creature comforts a good hotel can offer. They're really having the best of two worlds. The hotel's landing strip couldn't be mistaken for London Airport, but efficient services operate in and out. From here, the ski planes take off to deposit tourists on the glaciers and bring them down again when they've been sufficiently awed by all that ice and snow. The ease with which the ski planes are flown around the mountains is amazing. The pilots know the glaciers as well as a farmer knows his fields, so perhaps they're blasé about it. But passengers, even those who've been up here many times, get a tremendous sense of exhilaration from the trip. Not every visitor to the South Island has time to travel to the Hermitage. Such people needn't miss out on enjoying the Southern Alps. Join a long-range tourist flight at Christchurch Airport, and the scenery is all yours. White walls slip away under the aircraft, and we really must rejoin the ladies below. We find them in Queenstown. Queenstown is a place with something about it, and that's proved by the fact that visitors return again and again. Its charm might lie in the mountains, the lake named Wakatipu, the climate, or a happy combination of all three. In winter, even the most ardent skiers take a day off to make a trip on the lake steamer. She sails along like a stately mother duck, pursued at times by racy offspring. One very happy girl on board the speed launch is our friend Susan. She received a letter this morning. That makes 5 since she left Nelson, and she knows there'll be another one waiting tomorrow morning at the hotel in Milford Sound. Susan's now just as interested in the mail delivery as she is in seeing the rest of the country. A rental car will take the girls from Queenstown into Milford Sound and finally down to Invercargill. Milford is the best known of any New Zealand sound and lies beyond the southern lakes of Te Anau and Manapuri. The hotel, standing at the head of the sound, seems remote, cut off from the rest of the world. Yet the number of travellers who reach it is surprising. Apart from coming in by road, people can walk in over the Milford track, and a great number do. Come in by air, or from the open sea 12 miles away, make their visit on board a ship. All this makes the sound sound very crowded, but on the other hand, it is very large. Sheep have all the time in the world to stand and stare. Susan's pressing on to catch the plane from Invercargill. Is Susan sure he'll be in Christchurch? No, she's not, but she's taking no chances. This time tomorrow, Lorraine will be back in Auckland, and Susan will be looking down on the Tasman Sea. She'll have many things to remember. The boiling world of Rotorua, the stillness up in the mountains, backing the winner at the races, and those sunny, happy days at Nelson. 0 hour approaches and there's still no sign of David. Perhaps he won't come. Oh, yes, he will. But you never know with men. If that's what Susan's thinking, she's doing a fine feminine job of not showing it. Her luggage has been checked in. She has a seat number. Nothing to do now but wait. And the waiting is not in vain. Lorraine, as an interested observer, never doubted for a moment that David would be here, and she silently rehearsed her tactful exit line for the last hour. She simply must go and buy a magazine. A chance photograph, an accidental meeting, an exchange of letters, happy days together. These sometimes are the things that lead to a proposal. After she leaves New Zealand this afternoon, perhaps it'll be a very short time before Susan is back again for a long, long stay.